welcome back to the channel, guys. I haven't done a live stream in forever, and I want to bring my man Gabe from Struggle Security on again so we can talk about tech, talk about what's new with his career, and also just answer you guys questions that are interested in getting into the cybersecurity field. So welcome, Gabe. How you doing, man?
Man, very happy to be back. It's so funny as I look back at the channel and all the collaborations we've done. We done maybe 3, 4, 5 different videos, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 streams. It's just really good. This feels like home. I feel like I'm back home to where a lot of, really, I feel like your channel's where I started my YouTube career. So I'm very happy to be back to kind of talk about what's next and what's been current with me and talk about cybersecurity. So definitely looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to have you here, man. Like you've always, you were one of the first people I interviewed on my channel. So you kind of kicked off the whole interviewing thing. I always would tell you, I hope I did okay, man. I know I'm not the best at this interviewing stuff, but you was like, just keep it going and see how it turns out and everything. Happy to have you on again, bro. But let's hop right into it, man. So go on and introduce yourself, people that may not know who you are.
Absolutely. So my name is Gabe A, right here on YouTube, but also my tech YouTube channel is called Struggle Security. And the tagline is normalizing struggling in cybersecurity, where really my overall goal is to really help people who are early in their career and people who are trying to progress into cybersecurity or transition into cybersecurity, and really try to alleviate a lot of their struggles by talking about my own experiences or things that I've seen within the field that can help them get a leg up as they come into the cybersecurity. So that's kind of the overall purpose of me being here on YouTube and the overall purpose of my channel. Professionally, I am a cybersecurity practitioner. Started off in engineering. Undergrad was in electrical engineering, was in automotive, was in nuclear, kind of transitioned, went from engineering into cybersecurity or engineering into tech. That was a big thing because I was very worried about losing all of my engineering background, all those years of school, all that math, all those classes. And I'm like, man, I don't want to give it up for cybersecurity, but I think that I've really made a really good choice where actually I've been able to blend the two with engineering and cybersecurity, where now I do cybersecurity for industrial or engineering type of environment. So that's a lot of what my background, or at a high level, what my background is.
Yeah, that's dope, man. Like, man, that's interesting to actually get into, bro, because you don't see that, you don't typically see that route, you know what I'm saying? Especially when it comes to the area that you're in. So well, I know I didn't ask you this before, but what made you, or what allowed you to transition into cybersecurity? Like, were you always interested in something with computers, or, because I know you started off as an engineer, but what got you to transition to that?
Yeah, so it was actually by mistake. The opportunity had presented itself and I'm like, okay, let me just go into it. So I was working in a nuclear plant as what you call like a nuclear instrumentation and controls engineer. These are the engineers within nuclear plants that manage the digital devices like the sensors and the flow meters and the controllers. We make sure that a lot of these different devices are healthy and that they're giving out the outputs that needs to be there for operators, nuclear plant operators, to make the correct decisions to say, okay, we need to refuel, we need to restart this different device, or we need to manage this or replace this thing. So that's what the capacity within the nuclear plant I was in. But then a hack in the Middle East happened. It was called Stuxnet. And it was an Iranian facility that had some malware on it that was nation state, or meaning that nations came together in order to create this malware. But the equipment in that environment was similar to the equipment within my little nuclear plant or nuclear plants all around the world, and more specifically within the United States. So as a result of that event happening, Stuxnet happening, all different types of government regulations started to come down to all these different nuclear plant environments, including my little plant not too far outside of DC. So then I was the youngest guy around, so they threw me on all the cybersecurity projects. And that's really how I made the transition. So I guess it was by a mistake, but really I think the opportunity had presented itself. And I'm like, boom, now I'm here. So that was the transition from very traditional engineering.
Yeah, that's dope. So now let's get into like what your current position is, because that's really what I wanted to bring you on for, to talk about the current position that you're actually in, because you've been progressing through this field for a while now and very fast, you know what I'm saying?
Man. Yeah. So let's talk about it, man. So I think my first interview with you was maybe like 2 or 3 different organizations in the past, right? So first time that we talked, I think I was probably working as a senior consultant for a cybersecurity consulting firm, which was dope. It pretty much gave me a lot of that technical background, whether I was doing packet analysis for network environments, I was doing penetration testing, incident response, security program assessment. I was doing a whole bunch of that. And then I moved into a management role within another firm, right? I had a team of individuals, but I was also doing technical things at the same time. So that was probably like maybe 2-3 years ago. I was actually in that role for 3 years. And now I just most recently moved into what you call like upper or higher leadership within the organization. So I'm an executive director for OT and cybersecurity for an engineering firm. So yeah, I'm now transitioning to the leaders type of stuff where I'm multiple levels removed from the people that's actually doing the work now.
Yeah, like a lot of people I run into, they get comfortable, in those roles where they're actually doing the work, and they don't want to take on those leadership roles. What was the motivation to move up and apply for these positions?
So, one thing that I was seeing, especially in consulting, is that a lot of times the work that I was doing was scoped out, it was considered, it was identified by people that were multiple levels higher than me within the hierarchy of the organization. I was doing stuff that I had no, say in, right? Yeah. They'll say, we need you to do a pen test. This is the statement of work. This is what you got to do. This is the amount of hours that you get. This is the company. So I was seeing that I was more doing work that I had no say-so in. I think I gained a lot of experience, but I did want to get a level of visibility into what that looks like. And I think that a lot of times within the market or within tech in general, we can be so focused in on, hey, I want to do this tech thing. I want to get this certification. I want to configure this switch. Tech is a business, right? So I wanted to understand also more of the business enablers of the work that I do, because I was understanding I was doing work, I was doing the tech stuff, but I really didn't understand the business background, the business value in what I was doing. So I think that moving up into leadership allowed me and gave me a visibility in a lot of it.
Okay. Yeah. And that makes sense. Like, is it fair to say like these guys are idiots? So let me go up there. No, I'm joking.
I know what you
because you always have run into you can potentially run into people that really don't know it, or they don't make the best decisions when it comes to, and they don't consult with the people on the ground level to see if they're actually taking it the wrong way, or if they could take it a different route in order to be successful. So yeah,
you're absolutely right. Especially when you think of consulting firms, a lot of times the people who are winning that work or bidding on that type of work or submitting those proposals are folk who are like MBAs, right? Masters of Business Administration, or sales folk, people who are experienced sales professionals, which is nothing wrong with that. But there are some gaps in understanding about some of those services and what they're really bidding and what they're really scoping as it concerns an engagement for folks. So I really do consider myself like a leader practitioner, right? Even next week, I'm actually going into the field. I need to see what we're doing. I told the guys, I say, listen, I don't have any problem throwing on a hard hat, some steel-toe boots, some jeans, and getting out into the field with everybody to really understand and really help us to be able to deliver for our customers. So I think that I do bring in that practitioner, a person who was actually doing the things not too long ago within the leadership role.
So how was because some people out here, they may have been working in the field for a while now in cybersecurity, and they're, I don't know, getting it in their head. Maybe I want to take on a leadership role. Like, how was that interview process?
Yeah, the interview process was very interesting because I guess I had a lot of the qualities already before I even recognized it. At my last role, I was in a management role for multiple years. I was always up for promotion for the senior manager role, which is one step above manager, senior manager, associate director, executive director, right? So I was looking for roles because I'm like, I think I'm ready for the next step, but I'm not seeing an opportunity in my current organization. So when I start putting out fillers into the LinkedIn, into the atmosphere of the cybersecurity recruiting, I was just looking for senior manager roles. I wasn't looking for like multiple level. I wasn't looking for director level roles. Based upon my background, based upon my experience, based upon my education, credentials and everything, I started getting a lot of replies for director level roles. I was in 5 different interview cycles at different points. Some were very early, some were mid, some were almost close to an offer. I was in 5 different interview cycles for director level roles within my specific, my specialty within cybersecurity. So it was just really interesting doing that. It was really interesting getting it out there. So I'll pause right there though.
No, but like any, let's say, tips, because I know one of the tips you gave me was good. So if you want to speak to that as well, and I know how deep you wanted to go into that because we're on a public platform.
Let me tell everybody what that advice is, right? It's being more than prepared for any type of interview that you're ready to go into. And let me tell you this, that's the strategy, being greater prepared for that. But the tactical is, 1, communicating directly to the recruiting organization or whoever the recruiter is, asking them, hey, I know I got this interview coming up. Does the hiring manager or the interviewer want us to cover during that interview? Sometimes it can be a personality thing, and sometimes it can be more of a technical or something as it concerns your role. So asking them what that role is or what's happening during that interview and preparing a small slide deck ready to prepare in the event that some of those discussions come up. Because what that does is that it really puts you in the driver's seat of the interview. Sometimes organizations, they'll have like, oh, this we want to ask this question and that question. It can be very bland. It can be very you can kind of be more on your heels from the question. But if you come to the interview knowing what they want to cover, knowing the subject matter, you can prepare maybe a 1, 2, or 3 deck PowerPoint presentation to say, hey, that's a really good question. I actually have prepared some material to discuss on that subject. Yeah. And here, is it okay if I share out? Boom, right? You bring that PowerPoint presentation up and now you're in the driver's seat. Now you can put the gas on, right? You can really go into depth about it. But the good thing about that is that you're ready. You are ready to talk. And another good thing about that is that most candidates will not do this. Most people will not do that. So it is, I guess, an interviewing differentiator for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did that in all of my interviews. I always was ready, prepared, took the driver's seat. And it was really good interactions because I'm putting it all out there, right? And I'm showing that, hey, I'm serious and I'm prepared for this interview. Ball's in your court. You need to make a decision.
Yeah, I'm different. I'm
coming to the table with a lot. Okay?
Yeah. Which makes sense because that's always been one of my issues, interviews. You know what I'm saying? I've always not 100% prepared like that. And I'm glad you put that out there, on your channel. You talked about it on your channel. And make sure if you guys are not subscribed to Struggle Secure, his channel link is in the description of the video. Make sure you go over there and hit that subscribe button. He has an awesome channel to help you get into cybersecurity. But yeah, man, I've always had an issue of not being, I would say I'll be 80% prepared or 5% prepared. You know what I'm saying? That you put out there, that really helps you with the interview process and just getting yourself in the right mindset to do good in these interviews. Cause like, I'm telling you, I didn't bomb so many interviews, bro.
And that's the reason why I started asking, because I'm like, man, I don't even know what the interview like. If I know what the interview topic, because the recruiter knows. The recruiter always knows what the interview is going to be about and what you're being evaluated against. You can ask that question and you can get that information to better prepare you. So at least that's me. If I'm prepared and I know what it's about, then I think that better helps me organize my thoughts and ideas to say, okay, this is a role that I could do. This is something that looks like a fit. So,
all right. Yeah. Let me pause for a second and give a couple people shout outs I see rolling through. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't have the live chat open, but I got it open now. Shout out to my man, MGTOW Universe, Casual Economist. Let's see, Justin Williams. What's up, man? He said, what's up, guys? Cold Tech, man. Yo, what's up, bro? Good to see you, man. You know what I'm saying? Nick Taylor, what's up, man? I see you in the building. Salute, my fellow Army brother. Professor Black Ops, salute to you as well, man. And then Smooth with the $5 super chat. Yeah, I definitely appreciate you coming through. He said, I can't support the other side of YouTube without supporting this side. Yeah, shout out to you, bro. That's awesome advice, bro, in the interview process or whatever. That's just putting that stuff out there. You know what I'm saying? Now, let me ask you this. What is your advice for people that may have gotten laid off? Because I'm starting to see a lot of people that have been laid off and they're trying to get into another position. Do you want to speak to that?
Sure. I think that, it is difficult right now, right? The job market, and I think just tech as a whole. I don't know if you even saw it. It was, who is laying off a whole bunch of people? Over 4,000
article a while back. Yeah,
man, just recently, I think like this past week, they're laying off like over 4,000 employees. I'm on layoffs right now. It should say over 4,000 people. Cisco's laying off over 4,000 employees, and it's within their infrastructure department. So you talking engineers, you're talking software developers, and that's 5% of their overall staff. So kind of how you mentioned, it is a difficult job market and people are getting laid off. So my main advice is really lock in, man. People got to lock in. I think that a lot of times people maybe focus in on a lot of other different things around getting hired. They might apply on a company website, don't get anything back from there and think that, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. Or they might say, okay, I'm going to do this thing on LinkedIn, try to put out fillers here, and then they don't get success and like, I'm not doing that anymore. You got to it's a concept in cybersecurity called DOS, or denial of service, right? You got to just keep on applying, following up with people, tracking. Like, I feel like that needs to be almost your full-time job. is applying for roles, because really it's a numbers game. Especially if, so say for instance that you have this, so the fact that you were employed a lot of times, you have the skills, you have the experience, you have maybe the degree or the certifications, more speaking about cybersecurity, but other fields too. If you have the experience for a lot of these roles, it's only a matter of time until you find the correct fit. And that time is dependent upon you. You are the one that's in control of that time. The more you apply, the more chances that you have to land a role. So if you're not applying and you're doing a whole bunch of other stuff, or like, and there's nothing wrong with certs, but trying to get a certification when you're trying to get a job can be difficult. There's nothing wrong with conferences and networking events, but trying to get a job while going to a whole bunch of networking events, it can be difficult to do both at the same time. I think my major advice is to lock in. Lock in on that one thing, and that one thing is your full-time job, and that's applying to roles, following up about roles.
Right, you're right, because I mean, and it's almost like, I don't know, some people gotta touch that hot stove, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But you definitely have to lock in on that. Like, all that extra stuff is for when you got a job, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like focusing on that stuff, you know, like conferences. Like I just told you before we started the live stream, I just got a ticket to DEF CON. If I ain't have, if I was out of work, I would not be going to this event at all. You know what I'm saying? That stuff is not priority. I got, and maybe I see it differently, and you probably see it differently now because you got kids, but I got kids, wife, family, and not that we living paycheck to paycheck, but that's priority, bro. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be tapping into savings to, you know, take care of normal things. I want to get my new job so I can add to my savings. I'm saying, so,
100%. And there's nothing wrong. Like, and the thing about it too is that there was a time where, so I was doing contract work, and I'll probably do a video on this coming up, is one time I got furloughed or laid off, right? And I was freshly married, right? We were doing the early parts of our marriage, and I had got furloughed. I got really laid off from a contract role. And I wasn't doing nothing but applying for roles. I wasn't doing nothing, to the point where I even went on Upwork, and I started to apply for kind of side gig type of roles, tech roles. I was a ghostwriter. I was reviewing software. I was doing network configurations. I was writing for blogs. I was doing 4, 5, 6 different things just to make sure money was still coming in, but at the same time, applying like crazy. People do get laid off, but it's like you really have to prioritize applying and following up on roles and making money over all this other stuff within the tech field. So
and another piece of advice I wanted to throw out there as well, like, don't take the rejection personal. You know what I'm saying? Maybe the organization they just putting it out there, I don't know, to fulfill their HR requirements, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes that is the case, but don't take it personal. Just keep applying and pushing forward and applying to other positions, because I fell into that trap, I would say, a while back as well, like years ago, where like I would take a lot of that stuff personal, bro, and I'd be like, forget applying to these jobs, man. It's getting old. Nah, just don't take it personal and keep applying, and eventually you'll find what matches up with your background.
And you know how I feel about recruiters, man. I done expressed this so many times. Recruiters, man, I'm not the best friends with recruiters. Recruiters are cool, right? But so there's like recruiters that are directly for organizations, but there's also headhunters. They're like more contracted by organizations to find people for roles. The headhunters, I really don't have a lot of love for. I'm not gonna lie to you, because I've been ghosted so many times and all that, where a lot of times I'm looking for a recruiter directly within that organization, or I'm looking at hiring manager. Headhunters, they're nice, they're cool, but they really have made me not really have a lot of these discussions, because they'll have you on the phone for like 30, 40 minutes talking about your background, talking about your resume, talking about all this stuff, and don't have nothing for you. Got no job for you, or they don't have no prospects, or they'll, like, I even had a recruiter tell me, hey, the salary that you're looking for is too high, and your background doesn't align with that. Where I'm like, no, that's not true. Like, you're not speaking truth, because I was just in this other. Anyway, not taking it personally, but really looking at the right people to go to if you're really trying to look for a role. Headhunters, for me, are not I don't really have the best experience with headhunters.
Nah, you're right, because a lot of times they're just stacking resumes, really.
That's it. They got a quota. They got a quota of resumes to stack, a quota of candidates, and they're moving through so many people so fast. You're not the priority. They see your background. They can see you as a number. Where if a recruiter directly with that organization reaches out to you, you know it's something. Or a hiring manager reach out directly, you know it's something. They have a role ready for you to jump into with the skill set that you already have, in comparison to some of these headhunters. They just looking for a quota, a number of people that they talk to during that week or something. So, I'm off that though.
Nah, you good. Now, now let's go into something a little bit more positive with the current position. I know you spoke a lot about visibility in this role. So what does that entail? Once you get into a role like that, does that entail more like speaking at conferences or things like that?
Indeed. So that level of visibility is there, right? So as an executive director within my organization, let me just say some things that have already happened. So one, I announced on LinkedIn that I was coming to the organization, but so I have a page on the website of my company, which is, Fortune 500 plus. They have a page where they're doing a Q&A with me and announcing my arrival to the organization.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. Like there's no other, right? I'm a one-of-one within the company that I'm a part of within its leadership role. This isn't to stunt or to brag. It's just to say what it is. So with visibility there's other strategic partnerships that we have with organizations that I was able to foster. So we have a budget that we're able to put out for strategic partnerships. And we were able to partner with an organization that resulted in me speaking at the Congress building. I spoke at the Congress building on emerging cyber threats for our critical infrastructure. Our organization posted it, their organization posted it, and it's with senators and other leaders within the critical infrastructure space for cybersecurity. Visibility. Your name is just out there. So really for my organization, I'm the face of the organization to many respects. So we also have an email address that if anybody is inquiring for our services, for anything that we do, they have an email address that goes directly to me and my vice president. That's it. If they're looking for so there's a lot of visibility and world facing, because this is the global organization. It's world facing for our company. So anytime I say anything, if I'm speaking at a conference, I'm representing our company on a high level. So it's very much so, a lot of visibility. So you speak about conferences. I'm always being invited to speak at a conference now. I get emails all the time. I'm actually on several steering committees, boards, for how conferences will go, because they're looking for leader input about things that we would want to see for a conference or even sponsoring conferences. So it's just it's different. When your inbox is full with opportunities and you're selecting from things that you want to do and the direction that you want to move your organization into.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully
that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. Like, cause I started thinking about, like when you was talking, I started thinking about like politics. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the type of people that are hit up when it comes to them creating new bills or like the infrastructure bill. That's what it just started popping up in my head.
For our group, we also have connections we also have lobbyists that we send to DC in order to speak on our behalf and move legislation in the direction of what our position is as a company. So it is very politics involved. It is a lot of politics involved. I'm still navigating that too, right? So I don't really know all the details, but it's a lot of that too.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling. And it's so interesting because moving into this so quickly and not having this background and experience per se, I'm growing into this role. And I think that that's really important for anybody that's going into leadership or any other type of role, is that you don't want to be comfortable, right? You want to be at a point where you're expanding and you're growing and your skills are able to change and grow as you're changing and growing. So I think that this discomfort, this struggle that I'm in right now, I think it's positive and it's allowing me to grow in a different direction.
It should be normalized, being that you just shouldn't be comfortable because it'll force you to learn new things, push towards new certifications if you need it or whatever. That uncomfortability in a position motivates you to learn new skills and all that stuff. So, I agree.
Because my business acumen is increasing. So I'm also responsible for our sales strategy and our business pipeline and growing it to some degree. So I'm heavy within Salesforce all the time, understanding what our pipeline is, where opportunities are, who I need to connect with, and updating proposal writing. I did a bit of it at my last organization. Now I'm responsible for it. It's very different.
Yeah, that's dope, man. Or certs, they are important for you to get to that. Well, are they important for you to get to that level, or are there any new certs that you had to take on in order to, I would say, get into a role like that? Go ahead.
For me, you're right there. So there's that big question all the time within tech, and there's millions of YouTube channels and all types of information online talking about tech and certs, especially cybersecurity certifications, degrees, credentialing, what that really looks like at this level within leadership. I would say that certs don't really matter as much anymore, right? Certs really don't matter as much anymore. what you've previously done, your experience, how to communicate that experience, how to communicate your understanding of the market that you're in. I think that those things are more important. So maybe at this point, I have a master's in cybersecurity technology, but I'm somewhat considering an MBA at this point, right? A master's of business administration, potentially going into some level of professional development, or let's see, like executive level professional development courses where you're developing more of like a executive presence, understanding how to communicate to that party or that pool of leadership individuals. I know MIT has some programs. I know that Harvard has a couple of programs. So those are some of the things I'm considering more than like a certification and a degree. I'm more looking at professional trainings.
And that's specifically that level, right?
Yeah.
That's specifically level. Yeah.
Nothing is clear cut. You almost have to do a self-assessment of where you are as a leader and be able to understand where you want to fill in those gaps. Because it's not like, hey, you come in here, you get your CCNA, then you get your CCNP, you get your CCIE, or you get your Security Plus, your Network Plus. Those aren't bad certs, but at the director level, it's more of how can I better equip myself to lead this team? And it's more from a business perspective than a technical perspective at this point.
Now, is it important to keep those certs that you do have active?
And I think that goes into your leadership DNA, right? That's one thing that I'm very much so developing. So I'm really looking at myself as being a leader practitioner or a technical leader, somebody who can do the work still, but now sit in a leadership role for an organization of folk that do the work. So I am looking at keeping my current certs current and fresh and staying technical in my understanding, but I'm not looking at getting a whole bunch of others more certs, right? Also, certifications and credentialing is important when you're doing proposal work. So when organizations are looking at saying, okay, we're putting out a request for proposal out to the market, who wants to bid on this? When you have somebody like myself, who's a leader who has that background, but who also has active certifications that applies to the work that we're proposing, that kind of puts us ahead of our competition who aren't able to express that credentialing and that experience on paper. So certifications, degrees, and backgrounds are important. So I am looking at keeping them current because it really identifies the capabilities of our organization. Hopefully that makes sense.
No, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now, let me ask you this. Now, as far as leadership roles, and this is something I brought up on your live stream when you actually talked about and breaking the news that you took on this position. As far as executive positions, one thing I've seen in organizations that I've worked for, sometimes during like a reorganization, they kind of cut certain people or cut certain leadership roles. It seems like it was almost like they get rid of them and bring in new leadership to try to reorganize the structure, so to speak. Do you feel as though that could happen to you at this? Well, and I know anything can happen.
I think that with executives, directors, high level leadership, it all depends on your track record. And you really have to, the way that I look at it is that you are not only responsible for your track record within that organization, but also your personal brand. So I don't only develop what I look like within my organization, I also develop what I look like the market, to the industry. So at times when individuals are cut, when executives and directors are cut, if my personal brand is strong, then I'm able to move over into other organizations easily. And I've seen that even people on our team, they experienced some layoffs and we were able to just bring them in because of their track record, because we know who they are. We've seen them at the conferences. They contributed to these publications. They've done training in these areas. They know this person and that person. So that network really does become a lot more valuable in the event of cuts, especially from a leadership perspective. But I think there's another area or another perspective is that sometimes when there's these reorgs, leaders get placed into different parts of the organization if the organization is large enough and can support that transition. If you have a positive track record, if you were able to meet your financial goals, if you were able to bring in resources to the point where that organization is running well and running smoothly, if you were able to develop talent and you've gotten a lot of good reviews and feedback, and if you have very good relationship with other leaders within that organization, that really helps with your story to be put in a different environment in the event that, hey, budget is being cut here. We might need you as a leader over in this other area to develop and grow this part. So I guess it's an outward within your market and your network and your personal brand, but then there's an inward brand that you need to develop within your organization in order to stay in the ability to stay employed, I guess.
Yeah. And that makes sense. Another reason that made me bring it up, because some people I've interviewed, I'll go look at their background on LinkedIn or something, especially for one of those Fortune 500 companies or whatever, I'll look at their background and you'll see guys that, okay, they were a manager over here at Amazon. And then they did that for like 2 years. And then you'll see that they moved to Microsoft for like 3 years or 4 years. And then they end up right back at Amazon.
You will see somebody with 10, 15, 20 years within that same organization, within different leadership capacities, right? It might be a VP here, they might be senior director here, they might be VP over there, right? That's one. Another one is, like you were saying, moving from organization to organization to organization, leading and growing because they got such a strong network. Got such, but I think another one that's happening within a lot of leaders, people starting their own companies, people starting their own firms, people start creating a product and being able to market it. So I think it's those three: people who are in their organization for a long period of time, moving around, that's starting to go away. People who are going from company to company, doing great work. And I think also people starting their own companies is another one that I see within leaders.
That's dope, man. I'm glad you broke that down, though. You know what I'm saying? And so I wanted to ask you, as far as moving around, do you see the benefit of staying with companies or moving around a whole lot more?
So this is my perspective, right? I think it starts with you. You have to define what your career trajectory or what your career goals are. Do you want to move up in leadership? Do you want to have a diversity of experience across multiple organizations? Or are you looking at, and there's nothing wrong with comfort, right? Or do you want to be comfortable within a role, grow and build within that company that's taking care of you and taking care of your needs for all this time? I think it starts with you to define what that is. My goal was to be in leadership, right? I had decided maybe 2 or 3 years ago that I do want to move up within the leadership ranks within my field, because of a little bit what I talked to you about earlier, is that I was seeing a lot of the leaders weren't necessarily practitioners. They didn't have any of that technical experience. They were never in the quote unquote field, right? They weren't on the front lines of the cyber threats. They weren't defending. They weren't responding. They were very good business people. So, I guess for me, I saw a gap, and that gap is what I believe that I feel is that a leader practitioner, someone who has been there, done that, but that can also be able to lead and grow and develop a team of individuals to do similar work that I did. So to answer your question directly, it starts with you to define what your career goals are. And then based upon that, hey, you might have to go from company to company to company in order to accomplish that goal. Or you could accomplish that goal by staying in one organization.
That's dope. And that kind of reminds me of when I was in the military. That's one thing I would always respect as far as officers go. A lot of the officers that transition from non-commissioned officers, they were like NCOs beforehand, before they switched over to those officer roles. They understand the grunt work. They understand the guys down in the trenches a whole lot better to make the correct decisions when it comes to certain ways of running things. So that's what it reminds me of, and that's what I can relate to. And shout out to Untitled. I see you for the super chat. What's up, man? I see Sly in the building. Zone. What's up, bro? Chosen Racer. He says Agent Struggle Security. I think he was talking about when you're speaking to I think one of those other positions. Shout out to Farron Perry. What's up with the fire? Big Bad Bull. What's up, man? Good to see you. Gail at Night says good day. Keep it techie and Struggle Security in the chat.
Hello.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
See, keep your skills short and be well-rounded. Yeah, that's definitely important, Cole. Appreciate that. And Truism, I see you. What's up, man?
Now, I was about to say, also, I think another thing is that kind of moving into those type of roles, nobody's going to give it to you either, right? I think a lot of times people look at people who are educated, who are, I guess, within a tech field as maybe like passive and very like kind of like not very, you got to be aggressive if you're trying to move into leadership or just being in tech in general. You got to be pretty aggressive to go after exactly what you want. So, applying to roles, that's even an element of competing, because the higher you go, the less you have to compete. But at times the competition can be stiff, right? I know I was in certain interview cycles with organizations where it was like whoever else was interviewing, they was just better, or they were more ready for that role than I was, right? There was directors and senior directors who had already been there, done that. Like, how do me as a newly minted leader compete against somebody who had already did it? It just all depends on that organization. Are they looking to develop somebody? Are they looking to develop a leader? Or are they looking for somebody who can hit the ground running, who has already been positioned with that use case, who can make a change after day one, right? That wasn't me. So, that competition gets stiffer, but that competition is still there. You got to compete, you got to be ready, and you got to be aggressive in many cases. You got to put your foot out there. So, I think that right? It's this idea of what quote unquote educated lane, where you can't be ain't no lanes in this. Ain't no lanes in this thing. So, you know, you really got to be on the top of your game if you're trying to move up and gain more and more of a leadership role within tech.
Yeah. Now, speaking of you making that decision to get into a leadership role, and you said about 3 years ago, is that one of the reasons you decided to pursue the master's degree? Because I think that's around that time, right?
Yeah, that was the reason. So I got my master's in 2021. And yeah, that was the time in which I was getting put on a lot of work that was scoped by individuals who did not know the number of hours. So I was stressing out at times because they would scope work so thin to be able to get the most profit, get the most revenue from that. So they would scope it so thin, I will only get a certain amount of hours. I will only get a certain amount of days. It would just be such a tight schedule to get money rather than really considering the practitioner. And I'm like, man, I'm just scoping stuff better. Man, I could do it. I could put a better proposal together that would allow for the practitioner to get the best output of work, but not have them stressing, not have them really trying to, a lot of scope creep come in. So, you know, it can be very difficult when you don't have practitioners scoping and putting out good information to the customer about, hey, what is the level of effort for this type of work? Yeah, around that time was one of the motivators too. But like there were others, right? I mean, just growing as an individual, just growing as somebody who I wanted to gain more of a business acumen within cybersecurity too. And I just know that would only come from more visibility from a leadership perspective. So right now, the books are open, right? I know what our pipeline is. I know what our financial goals are, the revenue generators, the customers. So now I'm not necessarily only speaking to like engineers, but I'm speaking to CIOs, chief information security officers, CEOs of companies. I'm on calls with those individuals who are really the decision makers within organizations. So I think that has really helped me develop more of my business acumen within cybersecurity.
Okay. So it's safe to say, because this is the age-old question I always ask on all the interviews, that certs versus degrees. As far as, because one thing I would always say, like, in order to get into these leadership roles, they most likely want to see those degrees. And so
I think within these leadership roles, I guess more of like consulting or big organizations, they will look at a master's of business administration as one of those degrees, but I would say degrees for sure. Degrees are probably more value than certs are for upper level roles. Yep.
Cool,
to make it simple.
Yeah, and if any of you guys got any other questions y'all want to ask Gabe, go on, drop them in the chat. I'm gonna kind of head over to this damn conference, you know what I'm saying? And I want to still give you as much time to cover exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Bro, it's been a while since I did these live streams, man.
No, you're good, man.
I didn't lost my touch, you know what I'm saying, a little bit. I used to get in the groove and I could just spit off the questions outside my head, and now I'm back at day one almost, seem like.
No, listen, I'm right there with you. I've been doing a couple of live streams here or there. Like that's that thing, right, about content creation. That was another thing, right? Being public and having that public kind of personal brand. Content creation is really good, but it's like, you know, there's different priorities, right? If you transition to a new job, you know, YouTube not gonna be your focus. If you're trying to look for a job, you're not gonna be your focus. If you got other events and projects and things that's going on in your life or vacations, YouTube not gonna be your focus. So, you know, I'm right there with you, man, because I haven't really put up a whole lot. I actually recorded today for the first, but it's been a while since I've been able to contribute to my channel. So I'm right there with you. I'm rusty too. I was it took me about an hour to get to record this most current video that's coming out. I'll probably come out next week. But yeah, I'm definitely rusty.
Nah, they got a question in the chat. Larry, he says, do either of you have private and public sector experience? Thoughts on the paid time off benefits for comparatively thinking of leaving the government for private sector, or should I be patient? I'll let you go first, but I can answer it.
So I do have private and public sector experience. Yeah. Actually, I was a network security architect doing DoD, NIST, NIST 153 work. So it was RMF. I forget what that stands for. It's been so long. I was doing RMF work. Typically, the private sector does pay more, especially in cybersecurity. It does pay more. I think the height of public sector cybersecurity work based upon the DoD standards is somewhere is a GS-15, which is somewhere around 180K or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But for similar roles within the private sector, you can well surpass that, especially if you're talking about big tech. So I think that your earning potential is more for sure within private sector. But it all depends on what you want to do. When you talk about paid time off and benefits, if you're talking about big tech, paid time off and benefits are better, right? Well, benefits at times can be better within the public sector because you all still get pensions, don't you? Right? I think in the public sector, you still can get pension. So some of those paid time off benefits can vary. But yeah, that's my overall thought, at least as it concerns pay. Private typically does have a higher ceiling of pay than public, but public at times can outweigh private in the form of some of those benefits like a pension.
Yeah, and it really depends on where you are. Like if you're just a contractor or something like that, the benefits probably not going to be the best. It all depends on the positions. But if you're a DOD employee with those GS positions, a lot of times, especially if you prior service, that ties to your retirement as well. So let's say you did 10 years in the military and you go work as a DOD employee, that pension ties together and you can build that pension. A lot of guys, when they get out the military, they go work for the post office because you can get that retirement there as well. So let me see. Appreciate y'all opinion. Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Nice.
Truism, he says, got to get the stream skills back up. Play. So Larry, risk management framework, you brought that up.
The RMF. So this 853 risk management framework. Yeah, that's what it is. That's the stinging and scapping stuff that I always argue with. Well, not you, but go back and forth with Professor at Black Ops about. That's a lot of work I used to do. Getting ready for their ATOs, authorization to operate. Oh my gosh, that stuff brings back bad memories. I did not enjoy it. But yeah, that's the stuff I used to do.
Let's see, Tay, he said, I have been thinking a degree will be better than certs. At least your degree doesn't expire. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it just all depends on where you want to go, man. It just all depends. Do you want to move up in leadership? Do you want to? A lot of times it is your experience. Like when you start telling your story of what your career has been, where you have a deep level of expertise and understanding of that's really where the main value is. I think your degrees and certs are just kind of like the cherry on top, right? It's kind of like more the garnish, which makes it look pretty, right? But then your background and experience is really what's important. Yeah.
Okay. I got you. So I'm going to go on and close it out, man. I appreciate you coming through.
Yeah.
Definitely. If you guys, are not subscribed, most of you guys, y'all know Gabe. But if this is your first time hearing about Gabe, he got a channel. It's in the description of the video called Struggle Security. And it's an awesome cybersecurity channel. We're going to try to collab a little more, man. I'm going to make sure I get more questions for you. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to keep rocking, bro.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, man. And thank you for us being able to have this discussion about what kind of leadership looks like within tech. I think it's not very common. A lot of times we just want to stay within maybe a senior technical role at most, but visibility into what it looks like in higher levels of leadership within tech and cybersecurity. I think that's something that I really want to make more content on and get some visibility into that in the event that people want to go in that direction. So keep it techy. Thank you for having me on the channel. Thank you for allowing me to be able to explain what that is, this new journey in my life and new journey in my career. Just very happy to collab with you again. And definitely, like you said, more to come.
Yeah. I appreciate it, man. And I appreciate all you guys coming through. And thanks, Zone, for putting a link down in the chat. That's Gabe's channel. And you guys can click on there and subscribe. He has an awesome channel. Like I said, in my opinion, way better than mine, man, with the cybersecurity stuff.
Trying to get like you. Yeah, for real.
But I appreciate all you guys for coming through. Make sure you like the video. If you haven't, share it with anybody that may be interested in getting into cybersecurity or learning Linux, share my channel out. I definitely appreciate it. But I appreciate all you guys coming through and making this a good live stream, because without you guys in the comments, asking the questions and contributing to the conversation, it'll just be, just me and Gabe talking, But I appreciate all you guys, man. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. If any of you in Vegas and you at DEF CON, come holler at me, man. I'm finna head up there in about an hour. So I'll be recording, interviewing people up there as well. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and peace.
Peace, everybody.
Whenever I talk to people, whenever I mentor people dealing with, getting into tech, you got to figure out what you like or what you're interested in. Because, a lot of people get into the, tech field because you can make a good amount of money. The money is the motivator. But you also, in my opinion, in order for you to be happy, you got to like what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? And so, like for me, a lot of times it doesn't feel like work, bro. Most times it really doesn't feel like work. I'm doing something fun. I'm doing something I love to do. You know what I'm saying? So that's what makes it, great for me.